Welcome to a deep dive. This one's going to get intense, guys. We're diving into Arcane, one of the most emotionally charged shows out there.
Yeah,
And we're unpacking some really fascinating excerpts from family and betrayal and Arcane, really getting to the heart of it.
absolutely.
I'm so ready to untangle this web of relationships, like
Yeah.
all the betrayals and how they just wreck the characters.
What makes Arcane so powerful, I think, is the way those personal betrayals play out on this huge societal scale too. It's not just like messing up one person's life, It has
Yeah.
these huge ripple effects.
Exactly. So let's start with Vi and Powder, who later becomes Jinx.
Right.
I mean, talk about a bond forged in fire. Literally. Growing up in the Undercity, Zon, they only had each other.
Their early bond is so intense. It's amazing, actually. It's born out of that sheer necessity, right?
Yeah.
Just to survive in that crazy environment. But
Yeah.
that intensity, that's what makes it all fall apart.
So true. So devastating. This analysis we're looking at, it really digs into that tragic explosion, how it becomes this turning point for them. It's not just an accident. It's what, kicks off this whole chain reaction of betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Powder, she feels abandoned by V.
Yeah.
And that feeling that just gets so twisted. And Silco, the villain, he just uses that.
Oh, Silco's a master at that.
Yeah.
He doesn't just comfort her, he uses her pain, as a weapon, right? Turns it into this anger and resentment toward V.
It's chilling.
He gets it, betrayal. He's been there himself with Vander, so he knows how to use it.
Right.
He makes Jinx into this weapon, a living, breathing symbol of the chaos he thinks Zahn needs to break free.
Whoa, I never
Yeah.
thought about it that way. So he's using her for revenge, basically.
Mm.
But on a huge scale, against Piltover.
Exactly.
But it's still so personal, especially when V comes back. You'd think, okay, sisters reunited, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
But it just explodes everything.
These backfire so badly.
Makes things worse.
Because for Jinx, Vi coming back, it's not a happy reunion. It just brings back all that hurt, that abandonment she felt.
Right.
Silka's been so good at turning her against Vi, convincing her she can't trust anyone, especially her own sister.
Makes you wonder if they can ever, really come back from that. Can their bond ever be repaired after all that?
That's the question. Arcane, it doesn't shy away from how deep betrayal cuts, even between people who love each other.
So true.
And speaking of these messy relationships full of betrayal, Vander and Silco, we can't forget them.
Their story is Shakespearean.
Yeah.
They start out like brothers, fighting side by side for Zahn. Then, boom, their ideals clash and it changes everything. Their lives, the fate of Zahn.
What gets me is how their different ways of fighting for Zahn, that's what breaks them. Vander goes for peace. He thinks violence will just make things worse.
Yeah.
He wants to protect those he sees as family. Vi, Powder, the other kids. That's more important to him than power.
While Silco, he's all about revolution, hardcore. He thinks force is the only way for Zahn to be free. So when Vander shifts to peace...
Oh, he sees it as weakness.
Right, a betrayal.
Total betrayal. It fuels everything he does. He becomes Vander's opposite, ruthless, power-hungry. And the irony is, he becomes this twisted father figure to Jinx, echoing the very things he hated about Vander.
Hold on. So we have, operatic betrayals with siblings and brothers, right? But then Jace and Victor... It's quieter, but somehow just as heartbreaking.
It's different, yeah. Their betrayal is born out of, not malice, but their paths just going different ways.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they're partners, totally united, this shared dream to use science to make things better for everyone. But as they climb in Piltover, things change.
Jace gets pulled into politics, right? Power and influence become his focus.
Yeah.
And Victor, he's dealing with his health, and he becomes, obsessed with Hextech's potential.
Almost like he's trying to escape his body's limits.
Exactly. And the betrayal is this inability to see each other's needs,
They lose sight of that shared dream. Each becomes consumed by their own thing.
It's like tunnel vision.
Exactly.
They don't see the bigger picture or how they're hurting each other.
It's not intentional cruelty, but it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people can relate to that, though.
Oh, yeah.
Think about friendships you've had that, faded because you and your friend just grew in different directions.
Absolutely. Still care, but something's missing.
That connection, it's not there anymore. That's the tragedy with Jace and Victor. So much promise, but their ambition, it gets in the way. They can't bridge that gap.
Okay, so we've got sisters ripped apart by lies, brothers divided by ideas, friends torn apart by ambition. And then Silco and Jinx. Buckle up.
This is where things get really interesting and messed up.
Oh, they're dynamic. It's morally ambiguous.
Yeah.
A blend of, like, manipulation but also genuine affection.
Right.
All against Zahn's fight to survive.
Silco steps in, right? Fills that void of the left. He gives Jinx what she craves. Acceptance, belonging. He, encourages her talents even if it benefits him.
Right.
Gives her a purpose.
Right.
But it's all built on this foundation of, lies and control.
That's the key to them. Silco, he sees Jinx as a tool, a means to an end.
Yeah.
He sees that potential for chaos, for destruction.
Right.
And he encourages it. But there's this part of him that, genuinely cares for her, maybe even loves her in this, like, twisted way.
It's not just about power. You see these moments of actual tenderness between them, like when he calls her my daughter, but then there's the manipulation,
Oh, absolutely. He plays on her insecurities, uses her trauma, keeps telling her she can only trust him.
So messed up.
He's both her protector and her captor.
Right.
Providing, sheltering, but keeping her isolated and dependent.
Can she even have a healthy relationship when he's, like, pulling all the strings as a gilded cage?
That's the core question. Can real love exist when manipulation is so ingrained?
Yeah. What does that say about family and the choices we make in the name of love?
Whoa. Okay, so betrayals are shaping societies, siblings, friends. Nobody in Arcane is safe. I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, absolutely. The question is, can anyone break free from this cycle of betrayal, or are they doomed to repeat it all over again?
And what about Piltover and Zahn? How does all this play out in their conflict? We're just getting started with this deep dive.
What's really interesting is how those betrayals, they're like mini versions of the whole Piltover-Zahn conflict.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like that broken trust between characters.
Yeah.
Reflects the broken trust between the societies,
Exactly. It's this huge metaphor for how, like, inequality just breeds conflict.
Totally. And just like in those relationships, breaking free from that betrayal cycle.
Which seems impossible.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
But Arcane makes us ask, like, can true reconciliation even happen when there's so much, like, baggage?
So much pain and history.
It's heavy stuff. And it's, like, so relevant to what we see in the world,
Totally.
Speaking of heavy, Silco and Jinx. Talk about a roller coaster.
Oh, man.
On one hand, you see him totally manipulating her, using her for his own plans.
Right.
But then...
there are these moments where you see real affection,
Yeah.
It's twisted, but it's there. Like a fatherly love, almost.
Right.
Makes you wonder if a guy like Silco can even feel that,
Right. And Jinx after V, she's just craving that kind of connection. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine, right, growing up in the Undercity, it's rough. Violence, poverty.
Yeah.
Then this powerful guy comes along, offers you a place to belong, a purpose.
He believes in her, encourages her, even if those talents are a little, well, destructive.
He even calls her his daughter.
Right. But is it love? Or is it just another way to control her? He keeps her isolated from anyone who could, like, challenge him,
That's the brilliance of it. It's this constant back and forth, affection, manipulation. He provides for her, protects her, but
Yeah.
he's using her.
Yeah.
Molding her into this weapon for his own ambitions.
He teaches her to make bombs. But then at the end, he saves her instead of getting what he always wanted. Missed signals much.
That death scene, it gets me every time. It shows how complex his feelings for her really are.
Yeah.
He tells her he loves her, is proud of her, but it's too late. And Jinx, she's left with this legacy, the man who shaped her, loved her, manipulated her, gone.
It's like Arcane is saying love and manipulation can exist together, even in the weirdest relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of Jinx's chaos is because of him? Can she even escape that?
That question hangs over the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to that cycle of betrayal, right?
Yeah.
Silco, betrayed by Vander, does the same to Jinx. It's like this poison that keeps spreading.
Okay, so betrayal on a personal level, we get it. But are there any, like, bright spots? Moments where things could be different?
Arcane doesn't totally leave us hanging.
Okay, good.
There are hints of reconciliation, of healing. Like Vi, she's dedicated to saving Jinx. She refuses to give up no matter what.
Vi's love for Jinx is like this unbreakable thing,
Right.
It reminds us that even in the dark, there's still hope. And even Jinx, lost in her own world.
Yeah.
There are glimpses of Powder, the girl who loved and trusted her sister.
It makes you think maybe deep down that connection is still there. And it's
Well,
not just them. Think about Vander. He sacrifices himself, protects his family.
breaks the cycle Silco represents.
Exactly. Shows that even when betrayed, even in the worst situations, there's still selflessness, love. Like he's planting a seed of hope for the next generation to learn from their mistakes.
Powerful. It's subtle, but it's there.
Arcane shows the darkness, the pain, how destructive betrayal can be, but it reminds us there's always potential for redemption, healing, for love to win out.
This is getting deep. I'm starting to see why people get so emotional about Arcane. It's
Yeah.
not just a show. It's like confronting these huge questions about us,
Exactly.
about choices and consequences.
But choices we make have these huge ripple effects, and Arcane really drives that home.
So betrayal, reconciliation, hope. What about forgiveness? How does Arcane deal with that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Forgiveness isn't just saying, okay, you're off the hook.
Right.
It's letting go of that anger, the resentment that eats at you.
Which is something these characters really struggle with, huh?
Oh, big time. Powder blames herself for the explosion, even though it was an accident.
Right.
Vi blames herself for leaving Powder, even though she had to. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
They're trapped in this self-blame, can't move on. And Silco, he's still holding on to that resentment toward Vander.
It's like they're all carrying this weight from the past. Guilt, anger. It keeps them from really connecting.
And Arcane shows that to break free from that pain, that betrayal, you need forgiveness.
Of others, of yourself.
Both, yeah. But it's not easy. You have to face those emotions, acknowledge the hurt, and let go.
Which isn't always possible, right? Some wounds are just too deep.
True. And Arcane doesn't pretend it's easy. But even if you can't fully forgive, trying to understand, have empathy, that's huge.
It's about seeing everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
We're all capable of good and bad.
It's choosing to see the good in people, even when they've hurt you.
That's tough. But Arcane seems to say it's worth it.
And it's not just about individual characters. This forgiveness thing, it applies to Piltover and Zaun, too. They've both hurt each other, kept that cycle of violence going.
So for real peace, both sides have to, own up to their part in it.
Forgive past wrongs.
And build something better together.
Exactly. It's a powerful message, especially these days. The world feels so divided. Arcane reminds us that even with pain and trauma, forgiveness, empathy, understanding, they're not just possible, they're essential.
Whoa. Okay, we've covered so much. Betrayal, reconciliation, forgiveness. It's like every layer has more depth,
It's an onion. But what else is there to unpack in Arcane? What haven't we talked about?
I know, right? It feels like there's always more.
One thing that strikes me is how much Arcane focuses on empathy, like really seeing the world through someone else's eyes.
Ooh, interesting. Tell me more.
A lot of the conflict comes from a lack of that. They don't get each other's perspectives, misunderstandings, hurt feelings.
And that leads to betrayal.
Exactly. Like Vander and Silco, right?
Oh, yeah.
They both want good things for Zaun, but their ways of getting there are so different. They can't find common ground.
They get so stuck in their own beliefs, they forget, they're both human. They both want a better future.
Exactly. And then you have Jace and Victor, brilliant, but they get caught up in their own stuff. They stop listening to each other, trying to understand. That's what drives them apart.
And of course, Vian and Jinx. Their trauma it shapes them so differently. It's almost impossible for them to connect.
It's like they're speaking different languages.
Yeah.
Even though they're sisters, both hurting, both dealing with loss and betrayal, but they can't communicate it in a way that, brings them together.
And Arcane makes us practice that empathy, It shows us their stories, their motivations, their flaws. Even Silco. He's the villain, but we see him as a person. We see his pain, his love for Jinx.
It doesn't excuse him, but we get it.
Yeah.
That's what makes Arcane so good. It doesn't give easy answers. It makes us think about human nature, see things from different sides, deal with the messiness of it all.
And that's so important, especially now. We're so quick to judge, Arcane reminds us everyone has a story. Everyone's carrying stuff. And if we could just try to understand, see things from their side.
Maybe we can connect,
Yeah.
build a better world.
Arcane's a masterclass in storytelling, but it's also a call to action, isn't it?
It is. It says empathy is a strength, not a weakness. It's the key to understanding, forgiveness, and building a better future.
Wow, that's powerful. This deep dive, it's not just about a show. It's about our lives, our relationships,
Absolutely.
How can we use these ideas, betrayal, forgiveness, empathy, to connect better?
Exactly. And it's thanks to Arcane, how well made it is, that we can have these conversations, these reflections on what it means to be human,
To love, lose, forgive, find hope when things are tough.
It's a show that stays with you. Makes you think, feel, see the world differently.
Okay, so lots of heavy stuff. But what about hope? What in Arcane gives you hope? Like, even with betrayal and heartbreak, there's still beauty.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, for me, it's the found family thing.
Yeah.
Family isn't just blood. It's the people you choose, the ones who love you no matter what.
Oh, I love that. Like Vander and the kids, Vi, Powder, Milo, Clagger. Not related, but so close.
They create this feeling of belonging in Zone, even though it's so harsh.
Yeah, they had each other.
And even though that family gets broken, the love they had, the memories, it shapes them, shows that even with loss, family can endure.
And it's not just them. Echo and the Firelights, too.
Right.
They're fighting for a better future, even when it seems impossible.
Yeah.
So inspiring.
Shows that even in dark times, there are people who fight for what's right, for justice, for equality.
And even in Piltover, Caitlin. She challenges everything, fights for what she believes in,
Yeah.
even if it means going against her own people.
She sees past the prejudice, connects with someone from Zon. It's powerful. Shows change is possible. Even those with privilege can choose to do good.
It's like Arcane is saying hope is everywhere, even in the darkest places. There's always light, love, compassion.
It's those moments, those characters, those acts of kindness and courage that make Arcane so powerful, so hopeful. It acknowledges the darkness, but there's always light.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. This isn't just about explosions and magic, you know.
No, it's so much more.
It's about relationships, choices, consequences, the power of love, forgiveness, and how strong we can be.
Exactly. It's a show that makes you think, feel, see the world with more empathy and understanding.
Wow. I think we've covered it all. What a ride.
It's been emotional, but I get Arcane so much better now.
Me too. So much to think about. But before we go, any last thoughts for our listeners?
Well, it's like Arcane is saying, you know, we all have that Viz and Powder in us, that Jason Victor. We can choose to shut people out or build connections, hold on to anger, or, you know, try to forgive.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's like we're not just watching, are we?
Yeah.
We're making those same choices in our own lives.
Exactly. And that's where it starts, you know? Choosing empathy, giving people a break, trying to understand. That's how things change.
Not about being perfect.
No. It's knowing we all mess up.
Yeah.
We make bad choices. But even when things are dark, you can still grow, you know? You can change.
It's like Arcane is holding up this mirror.
Yeah.
Making us look at our own biases, how we judge, how we divide ourselves. It's saying we always have a choice, even when it's hard.
And you don't have to do it alone, right? Arcane shows how powerful community can be. Finding your people, the ones who get you.
Totally. Via and Caitlin, they come from totally different worlds, but they both want justice.
Right.
Or Echo and the Firelights, creating hope when everything's falling apart.
It shows we can connect even when it seems impossible, find that common ground, and then build on it.
So, okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, what can we actually do? You know, how do we take these ideas, empathy, forgiveness, and make them real in our lives?
It starts small, intentional, you know, like reach out to someone you've been avoiding, have that tough conversation with someone you disagree with, or just, you know, listen more than you talk.
Just be present, be open to the fact that, like, any interaction can be meaningful. You know?
It's a journey, not a quick fix, right?
Right.
You'll stumble, get frustrated. But if you keep trying, you know, choose empathy and compassion.
It makes a difference.
It spreads.
So as we say goodbye to this deep dive, take these ideas with you. Talk about them, you know. Let them inspire you to do something. And remember, even when the world feels broken, there's always hope for healing, connection, a better future. Thanks for joining us on this journey into Arcane.
It's been amazing. And remember, the story doesn't end here. What happens next? That's up to us.